Hola a todos. So, how do we tip in Spain? Well, la propina, a tip. Believe it or not, in Spain, we do not tip in exactly the same way as you would in most countries, not even in South American countries. Here in Europe, in Spain, in Europe, we take a slightly different approach. If you study Spanish as a foreign language or teach Spanish as a foreign language, you may want to stay till the very end, where I have prepared a 6 minute audio delving and diving into the details and nuances about how it exactly works and how we Spanish people view tips or propinas. If you're only interested in knowing what to do because you are preparing a trip to Spain or your Spanish is still not good enough, just stay for a little bit longer, where I will show you an article that I wrote with exactly the basic information you need to know. And without further ado, let's go for it. And before I forget, my name is Esther. I'm a teacher of Spanish as a foreign language, and this is the blog magazine that I've created to share content with you that might be of any interest if you're either a student, a teacher, or just a fan of Spain.
Yay!
Muy bien, pues vamos allá. Here we go. As I promised, here is our magazine. And this time we will focus on this mysterious, controversial, unnerving question. How do we tip in Spain? Las propinas en España. Well, for that reason, I did write an article specifically on that, a very easy one, in Spanish, but for non-Spanish speakers, I will just try to summarize and translate for you. First of all, the article is not exactly an article, it's what Substack calls an audio post. An audio post always starts with the audio section of the article. Unfortunately, I cannot put the summary earlier on in the article, but it does not matter because if you just scroll down, you will still get it here. Resumen, that's the summary. As per the audio, we will talk about it later, but let's go ahead with the gist, the substance, what you need to know. How do we tip in Spain? ¿Cómo son las propinas en España? ¿Se da propina en España? Do we tip in Spain? Cuando estoy en España, how much do I tip in restaurants? Cuando estoy en España, ¿cuánto doy de propina? There you go. En España, las propinas no funcionan como en otros países. In Spain, tips do not work as they do in other countries. And that's why, for foreigners, para los extranjeros en España, this is quite confusing. It's so confusing that someone decided to open a Reddit conversation about it. ¿Dejas propina? Do you leave a tip? This conversation was opened by an Irish expat in Spain. And in the article, you've got the direct link to Reddit, which we will see just here. Exactly. It's quite long. It's a discussion going backwards and forwards, but if you don't want to or you are not able to just spend your time reading the whole debate unless you find it to be really fun, you can just go back and go to the summary that I made, and especially the audio, which is based on all the comments that appeared on that Reddit conversation. So that's why, in order to help you, para ayudaros, he creado esta simulación de podcast. I created a podcast simulation. What do I mean by a podcast simulation? It means that we do get the help of artificial intelligence, basically in this case, the deep dive on Notebook LM, highly recommendable, which just summarized very well all the passion and all the concerns and all the impending matters about tipping in Spain. they go a bit further even than the article. So that's why it's going to be a very nice thing that for you to listen to it. The version is Spanish, so this would be for a Spanish student or a Spanish speakers. But if you're just only an English speaker, we will go straight to the gist in here. So there you go, as you were waiting for. Summary. En España no es obligatorio dejar propina. In Spain, it is not compulsory to leave a tip. Los trabajadores de los restaurantes ya tienen un sueldo mínimo. In Spain, the minimum salary applies. It's a state government set salary. Therefore, we consider that hospitality, restaurant, hotel workers, they already do have the tip included in their salary. That's the belief in Spain. That's what Spanish people think. Now, there is an important comment that I must make here. The fact that it's not compulsory does not mean that it's forbidden. In fact, it is possible to give a tip, and it's also very much appreciated. But not to leave a tip in Spain, it's not offensive, and it is not expected, or it is not expected every single time. That's why. Pero es costumbre, it is customary, dejar una pequeña suma solo si estamos satisfechos con el servicio. So we will definitely give a small tip, but only and only if we're really satisfied with the attention that we are being given. Small. When I say small, ¿cuánto? ¿Cuánto dejamos? How much? So here is an example of how would we calculate how much to tip in a Spanish restaurant, coffee or bar if we decide that it is something that should be done. That is, if the service has been really nice, really good, or just fair. There are two possibilities. First possibility is a symbolic amount. And how much is a symbolic amount? A symbolic amount is the rounding up, el redondeo, una cantidad simbólica. And here is an example. If your bill, si la cuenta, amounts to, let's say, 8,45 euros, 8.45 euros, we will just leave 10, right? So for some people, that's even too much. Other possibilities is just to leave a few loose coins, cents coins, but sometimes the value of those coins is so little that it's just not worth it, or that might be maybe sometimes even a bit offensive. So we would just round up to 10 if we've spent 8.45, for example. But you need to be close to the milestone, to the 10. You don't leave 10 if you've spent 5, for example. But you would leave 6 if you've spent 5.20. That's how it works. It's quite easy. O una cantidad mayor, a higher amount, at the discretion of the client, a voluntad del cliente, if the service has been really good. Si el servicio ha sido muy bueno. And here I must add that in very posh restaurants, really good restaurants, this may be a bit tricky because you expect the service to be stellar. You do expect it. It normally is. And even if you would assume that the salary of the staff working there would also be pretty high or much above the minimum salary, do not assume it. Do leave a very good tip. In this case, yes. In this case, it is probably advisable to raise it up from just a symbolic sum. Do a percentage like as you would do in your own country. Do it that way. If the restaurant is really posh, and of course the service has been up to the standards. If you've been disappointed, forget it. You are not expected to. And you're leaving, and you probably might never be back. So that should be fine. Right, so here you have an illustration. And a very nice thing that I think it's a nice thing about this post is that I've tried to include real Spanish people talking in TikTok about this subject. So, because the audio is generated by AI, it's based on real conversations, so do not get me wrong. the lines used in the audio are real conversations, but the voices are not. In this case, this is real people. So I'm not sure. We've got 3 different takes, 3 different views about las propinas en España, diferentes opiniones. La propina clásica, the classic tip, where we have the most important word in Spanish for almost anything is depende. It depends. We never make decisions right out. So depende. Here we have, for example, how fast this will be. Yeah, exactly. Depende. Okay. Sueles dejar propina. Yeah, depende. Okay. Here is on silent, but it doesn't matter. You do have subtitles. So this is something quite nice that I think it's a good add-on. This is quite an interesting one, but things are changing and there is controversy about it. It is true that in Spain, no es obligatorio, it is not compulsory to give a tip, but many restaurants, muchos restaurantes, especialmente cadenas de comida rápida o franquicias, franchises, restaurant chains from outside, están importando, they are importing the habit of making the tip compulsory by adding an item in your bill, an automatic item. We do not like that in Spain. And there is a TikTok about it. We hate it. We think we are being coerced to pay a tip that we might not have paid otherwise. And I'm not clicking because the connection is a bit slow for TikTok, but you do have the link here. And I don't know how that's going to turn out to be, but it's really not cool. We don't like it. Many people get it in the bill and they just strike it out with a ball pen and say, I'm not paying this. So just so that you know, if you see that in Spain right now, it's not yet a must. And there is another discussion on whether the tip should be compulsory or not, like in other countries. And the problem is that if the tip becomes compulsory, there is something that comes attached to it, and that's the obligation by the worker to pay taxes. Porque la propina puede llevar impuestos. All of a sudden, the worker will have to pay taxes on their tips. So, and that's not something that happens in Spain yet, although we do know the government wants to get their hands on the workers' tips, which, as I said, in Spain, a tip is not a way to complete the salary of the worker. It's a token of appreciation. Yeah, and a really cool thing about these audio posts in Substack is that you can obtain the transcript directly from the audio file, which is always placed here at the very beginning. So let's sample it a little bit.
Bienvenidos. Hoy nos metemos con un tema que siempre
very nice voices for you to delve and dive. It's a deep dive into this issue of tips. But if the audio is a bit too much for you because your Spanish is still not up to speed with this level, although it's quite simple, but you might be starting, you can always get the transcript. And the transcript is just scrolling down a little bit. You go transcript, and it also allows you to navigate just as you would do in YouTube.
Exacto.
There you go.
Porque, a ver, una cosa que queda clara rápido en el hilo y que choca fuerte.
There you go. So you can sample and you can listen at the same time as you read the text of this audio, which I think it's an amazing feature from Substack and something to bear in mind and not to miss. Apart from the fact that you can also I think you can download the MP3, if I'm not mistaken. Let's have a look. Can you download? No, you can't. No, you cannot download the MP3. I thought you could. You might have to have a certain membership, or maybe I could do it because I'm the author. It doesn't matter. At least you are able to use the transcript, which I think it's amazing. And just to finish off, before you, if you don't want to listen to the audio directly in through the Substack article, if you stay on in this video, I have just transplanted the audio for you. It will be the. But before we leave and go on to the audio, I would like to highlight this list that I have put in with vocabulario útil, a glossary with interesting vocabulary for restaurants and cafes. If your level of Spanish is quite proficient, you might not need it at all, but it's a good nice to have, especially if you're using vocabulary flashcards or apps like Quizlet, etc. You just need to copy paste it and import them into your app or in an Excel spreadsheet or just on your mobile phone. Just to have a look. Pagar con tarjeta, to pay by card. Pagar en efectivo, to pay in cash. Redondear, to round up. Very, very handy expressions to use in restaurants. And of course, if you like this, please like, comment, say how it was in your country. You can do it on this video on YouTube. You can do it on Substack. It doesn't matter. You can do it in both. But another thing that I would like to ask you is to subscribe. Subscribe either to this video. You can subscribe and get notifications. This is the first video. If you like it and you'd like more, I'll do plenty more. And on Substack, you can subscribe as well if you prefer to get notifications on your email about new Substack posts. So the videos complement the posts, the articles. That's it. Well, from me, this is it. I hope you've liked it. And I hope you stay to hear the audio on how Spanish people tip in restaurants or don't. Okay, have a very nice one, and hopefully I will see you in a next video. Bye bye.
Bienvenidos. Hoy nos metemos con un tema que siempre genera charla, sobre todo para quien viene de fuera o se muda aquí.
¿Las propinas en España?
Eso es. ¿Se deja? ¿No se deja? ¿Cuánto? ¿Cuándo?
Un clásico.
Sí.
Y bueno, la idea surgió de una consulta en Reddit, en Ask Spain, un usuario irlandés que al llegar a Valencia contaba su sorpresa con esto.
Es que es normal la sorpresa.
Y lo primero que se ve en esa conversación es que no hay una única respuesta. Es un poco un lío, ¿no?
Totalmente.
Hay muchas costumbres distintas, depende de cómo pagues, de lo que pienses del servicio, del trabajo en sí.
Exacto. Porque, a ver, una cosa que queda clara rápido en el hilo y que choca fuera es que aquí la propina no es obligatoria, no como en otros sitios, ¿verdad?
No, para nada.
¿Y eso por qué? ¿Cómo funciona aquí?
Pues básicamente porque la gente que trabaja en hostelería, los camareros y demás, tienen un sueldo regulado por convenio, por ley.
Ajá.
No dependen de la propina para vivir, como sí pasa, por ejemplo, en Estados Unidos. Y eso, claro, marca una diferencia cultural enorme.
Entendido. Y fíjate, algo que sale muchísimo en los comentarios es cómo ha cambiado la cosa con la forma de pago.
Uf, sí. El tema de la tarjeta.
Claro, yo misma me doy cuenta. Pagas con tarjeta y... ¿qué haces? ¿Dejas monedas que ya casi no llevas?
Exacto. Ese es un punto clave que comenta mucha gente. Antes, con el efectivo, pues era fácil. Dejabas las monedas del cambio a la vuelta.
Lo típico.
Sí, pero con la tarjeta muchos dicen que ya no dejan nada, o poquísimo. Pagan lo justo y ya está.
¿Y si preguntas para añadirlo con la tarjeta, qué pasa?
Pues ahí hay dudas. Algunos lo preguntan, sí, pero flota como una desconfianza. ¿Ese dinero extra va de verdad al camarero o se lo queda la empresa? No está claro.
Ya veo. Entonces, a ver, ¿cuándo sí se deja propina? Porque a verla, hayla. Alguna gente sí deja.
Sí, claro. Los motivos son variados. Muchos dicen solo si el servicio ha sido espectacular.
Algo fuera de lo normal.
Eso, más allá de lo correcto, de lo esperado. Otros hablan de gestos más pequeños, ¿sabes?
¿Cómo qué?
Pues, si pagas en efectivo, redondear la cuenta. Dejar los céntimos que sobran. O quizá 1 o 2 euros si tienes suelto y te han tratado bien.
Y también parece que hay un punto de empatía, ¿no? De ponerse en el lugar del otro.
Sí, totalmente. Varios comentarios, sobre todo de gente que ha trabajado en hostelería, dicen que dejan algo, a menudo 1 euro, como un gesto de aprecio.
De solidaridad, quizá.
Exacto. Reconocen que es un trabajo duro a veces y los sueldos, bueno, no siempre son muy altos.
Recuerdo un comentario interesante sobre eso.
Sí, el de un usuario, Fair Philosopher 930, que es camarero y tiene estudios. Defendía el valor de ese euro extra para alguien con un sueldo base justito.
Se acordaba de cuando era repartidor, creo.
Eso mismo. Decía que ese pequeño gesto para él significaba mucho. Incluso otro camarero contaba que le molestaba ver a amigos con sueldos altos no dejar nada.
Es un punto de vista. Y también se mencionaba lo de los repartidores a domicilio, ¿no? Dejarles un
Sí,
euro.
también salió eso. 1 euro al repartidor.
Vale. Pero claro, frente a esto del agradecimiento, de la solidaridad, también hay argumentos fuertes en contra de dejar propina.
Claro. Y muy razonados, ¿eh? La idea principal es, el salario digno lo tiene que pagar la empresa.
No el cliente con caridad.
Exacto. Esa es la responsabilidad del empleador. Y hay una preocupación, que también se nota, por no importar un modelo como el de Estados Unidos, que creen que empeora las condiciones.
Que precariza, dicen algunos.
Eso. Y luego comparan con otros trabajos. Un mozo de almacén decía, yo hago bien mi trabajo y no me dan propina. Para eso me pagan.
Tiene sentido.
Y bueno, lógicamente, si el servicio es malo o el sitio ya te parece caro de por sí, pues menos ganas de dejar algo extra.
Lógico, sí. Y cuando la gente sí decide dejar, ¿hay alguna cantidad estándar? ¿Un porcentaje como en otros sitios?
Pues va a ser que no. No parece haber una norma fija. Las cantidades que se dicen son súper variables.
Por ejemplo.
Pues desde unos céntimos, lo que decíamos de redondear, hasta 1 euro por persona si es un grupo pequeño. O si el servicio ha sido genial y es una cuenta grande, pues quizá alguien calcula a ojo un 5% o un 10%.
A ojo, o sea, nada estricto.
Nada estricto. No hay ese porcentaje culturalmente establecido. Es mucho más personal, subjetivo.
Vale, pues vamos resumiendo un poco. La propina en España entonces es voluntaria.
Muy situacional.
Sí, no es una norma social fuerte.
Depende de cómo te ha ido, del servicio, de si llevas efectivo o no.
¿Y conviven las dos posturas? La de dejar como agradecimiento y la de no dejar porque el sueldo es cosa de la empresa.
Exacto. Argumentos sólidos en ambos lados.
Y esto, al final, nos deja una reflexión interesante, ¿no?
Sí, da que pensar. Si la propina se ve a menudo como ese reconocimiento personal por un buen trato en ciertos trabajos, ¿qué dice eso de cómo valoramos esas profesiones?
Claro, porque en unas sí y en otras no.
Exacto. Porque en unas parece bienvenido o incluso algunos lo esperan y en otras simplemente se asume que hacer bien tu trabajo ya va incluido en el sueldo base, sin extras del cliente.
Buena pregunta.
Quizá la propina, más allá de ser solo gracias, a veces funcione como un termómetro, un indicador de posibles tensiones o, bueno, carencias en cómo están montados los sueldos en algunos sectores.
Interesante. Algo para darle vueltas, desde luego.